Take those toy medals off your chest before I hold you in contempt, old man. The judge's words sliced through the silent courtroom like a knife. Laughter followed, restrained at first, then openly cruel. In the front row, Eleanor Rourke, a middle-aged woman in a faded nurse's uniform, squeezed her father's trembling hand. "Dad, please," she whispered. "Just let it go." But John Rourke, 73 years old, didn't speak. He stood straight, his back stiff despite the pain etched into his joints. His medals, scratched, mismatched, some pinned in the wrong order, gleamed under the fluorescent lights. To the court, he looked like a senile veteran clinging to make-believe glory. To his daughter, he was her father, quiet, stubborn, and wounded by years that never truly ended. The judge leaned back in his chair, smirking. "You claim these were awarded for valor in the Gulf, Korea, and even Vietnam? Quite the traveler, aren't you? Perhaps next time add the moon landing." Laughter erupted again. Even the clerk tried to hide a grin. John's hands stayed at his sides. He didn't defend himself. Didn't explain. He just looked straight ahead at the flag behind the judge's bench, the same stars and stripes he'd saluted half a lifetime ago. "Your Honor," Eleanor pleaded, her voice cracking, "he's not lying." "My father, your father," the judge interrupted, "is a fraud trying to pass counterfeit honors in a federal building." John's jaw clenched, but his eyes stayed calm. The same eyes that had once seen things no courtroom could ever understand. Reporters crowded the benches, cameras flashing. This wasn't just a hearing, and it was entertainment. The story of the old veteran with fake medals had already spread through the local press. John had been arrested after confronting a city official during a memorial ceremony, insisting that the American flag was being hung at the wrong height. Someone had accused him of wearing fake decorations. By the next morning, the story went viral. "Let's proceed," the judge said, waving a hand dismissively. "Mr. Rourke, do you understand you're being charged under the Stolen Valor Act?" John nodded slowly. "Yes, Your Honor. And you plead?" John looked up. "Not guilty," the gallery snickered. A young man in uniform, a Marine recruit, no older than 20, muttered under his breath, "Disgrace to real soldiers." John heard him but said nothing. Eleanor rose again. "Please, he's not—" "Sit down, ma'am," the bailiff barked. The judge leaned forward, smug. "Mr. Rourke, before I pass judgment, would you like to prove your service? Any record, ID, or commanding officer who can vouch for these supposed medals?" John exhaled slowly. "No, sir." "I can't," the courtroom buzzed. The judge's grin widened. "I thought so." Case dismissed. He didn't finish the sentence, because at that moment, the heavy double doors at the back of the courtroom swung open. Two naval officers entered first, crisp white uniforms, gold trim glinting under the lights. They stepped aside, and in walked a tall man with silver hair and an aura that silenced the entire room. His uniform bore stars across the shoulder. Fleet Admiral Matthew Greaves, one of the highest-ranking officers in the United States Navy. The laughter died instantly. Cameras stopped clicking. Even the judge froze mid-sentence. The Admiral's eyes scanned the courtroom, sharp and cold. "Which one of you," he said evenly, "is John Rourke?" John turned slowly. His posture straightened. Their eyes met. Two veterans, one forgotten, one decorated. "I thought you were dead," Greaves said softly, walking forward. "I almost was," John murmured. The judge cleared his throat nervously. "Admiral Greaves, with all due respect, this is a federal court." The Admiral didn't look at him. "Quiet, Judge." The tone left no room for authority. He stepped up to Rourke, stopping just short of him. The courtroom was so silent you could hear the creak of his polished shoes. And then, to everyone's shock, Admiral Greaves snapped into a full salute. The entire courtroom gasped. The judge's mouth fell open. The young Marine recruit, the one who'd mocked Rourke earlier, stood frozen, his face pale. Admiral Greaves lowered his hand, voice steady but filled with reverence. "For those who don't know," he said, turning to the stunned audience, "this man standing before you isn't a fraud. He's Colonel John Ghost Rourke, U.S. Army Special Operations retired, Medal of Honor recipient, classified service under Operation Silent River." Whispers rippled through the courtroom like a wave. Greaves continued, He led the recovery team that saved my life in '91 when our transport was shot down behind enemy lines. He refused extraction until every last man was out. That's why I'm standing here today. The judge stammered. But the medals, they don't match. They're prototypes, Greaves interrupted. Special commendations issued under black operations. His records were sealed. Even the Pentagon doesn't have them on public file. He looked back at Rourke, emotion tightening his jaw. You should have told them who you were. Rourke shook his head. Didn't need to. I stopped fighting for recognition a long time ago. Every person in the courtroom slowly rose to their feet. The Marines in attendance straightened their posture instinctively, their eyes locked on Rourke. The young recruit who had mocked him earlier stepped forward, trembling. Sir, I didn't know, he whispered. Rourke placed a weathered hand on his shoulder. That's the problem with today's world, son. Too quick to judge by what shines, too blind to see what's worn. The judge stood up now, his face red with shame. No, Colonel Rourke. I deeply apologize. I had no idea. Rourke gave a faint nod. Then maybe next time, Your Honor, don't laugh before you listen. The Admiral smiled faintly. Spoken like the man I remember. He turned to the room. Men like this don't ask for credit. They ask for respect. And today he gets it. He saluted again. Every soldier in the room followed. The sound of synchronized salutes echoed off the marble walls, like a forgotten anthem rising again. Outside the courthouse, the press swarmed, but this time, not to mock. Headlines flipped within hours. Courtroom laughs turned to salutes. Admiral honors forgotten war hero. Rourke stood quietly beside his daughter as the Admiral's convoy pulled away. The sun dipped low, painting the courthouse steps in gold. Eleanor looked at him, tears brimming. Dad, why didn't you tell anyone who you were? He smiled softly. Because medals don't mean much, kiddo. But moments like this, when truth shows up, that's the real honor. A breeze carried the faint rustle of flags down the courthouse avenue. Rourke glanced up, saluted the banner, and turned to leave, his shoulders straight, his eyes calm. Behind him, people still whispered his name with awe. But he didn't need it. He'd already been saluted by the only man who mattered, and for the first time in decades, Colonel John Rourke walked away not as a forgotten veteran, but as a man who had just reminded the world what honor truly means.